episode of what? What is this another episode of? Hiking with Cheryl and Mark.
Hiking with Cheryl and Mark, yeah.
Hiking with Cheryl and Mark. We need to have a name.
I'm not sure what's a good name.
I don't know. How about the old gray hikers? Well, at least one of us. And we're on our way to
Los Maples State Park.
State Park down in southern Texas, near the town of Vanderpool. And we have about another 10 miles to go. Don't know if you can hear us. The road noise is a little loud. So we are packed up, full of motel breakfast, and have a beautiful day. Mark and Cheryl back here again. We're getting close to the park, and the scenery has changed quite a bit. A lot more relief. A lot of limestone, because this area was once covered by a ocean. Sign we were looking for. Lost Maples State Park. Here we are. As you can see, it's a little busy. We're waiting to get our permits. Want a t-shirt?
10 years ago.
We are hiking at Los Maples State Park near Vanderpool, Texas. It is Thanksgiving Day 2016. And the weather, spectacular. We've got a blue sky. Nice shady stretch here. Continuing our hike up the, what is this, the West Trail? West Trail in Lost Maple State Park. Weather is perfect. We've got a blue sky. It's about 60, 65 degrees. And the trail follows this stream bed, which at the moment doesn't have any water in it. However, there is a spring about another 2 miles up the trail that would allow us to replenish our water supply. And our goal today is to reach the backcountry campsites G and H. G is about the furthest point from the headquarters there, the park headquarters. That is along a stream. And if you go a little further, although you're not next to a stream, you're at the farthest point away from headquarters. Although the stream really isn't flowing all that much, every now and then is a shallow pool if you needed some water. Of course, you'd have to filter it. Nice overhang here. We've got some ferns. And continuing on up into a little cedar grove of cedar trees. This is the habitat for the black-capped vireo. Very scenic. And we're continuing to ascend the first little steep part of the trail. A little ways further we should see the cutoff for campsite E, which should be at the top of the hill here. Which we're getting pretty close, I think. Is this the cutoff? Nice little shady spot for a rest. Have some good places to sit down. Kind of opening up here as we approach the summit, if we can call it a summit. I guess by South Texas standards it qualifies. Some prickly pear cactus, still a lot of juniper and some short oak. And here we are at the top. So we've got a composting restroom here. Probably the cutoff for E. We are passing the turnoff for the primitive campsite E. Still continuing on the west trail. Looks like Cheryl's found a nice shady spot here to take a short rest. Enjoy the breeze. Nice breeze. All right, now we're starting our descent down into Mystic Canyon. I would say there's no mystery there. A nice little bench to sit and rest for a moment if needed. Fortunately, it's in the sun. We haven't seen any deer back here yet, hoping to. And I would give a word of caution to anybody that drives out this way. There are miles and miles of fenced in, what would you call those, game preserves, or what would, they're like exotic game ranches. And the habitat for the deer and the antelope is just perfect. But along with that, we noticed more roadkill, and I don't mean small animals. There were some stretches where we saw a deer, a roadkill deer, what, like every couple of 100 yards.
Yeah.
So, especially driving at night or near dusk, you really got to pay attention. There are so many deer out here in this part of Texas that they can be hazardous, especially at night. I think, Cheryl, you noticed that on the front of several trucks and vehicles they had the extra hardware. Yeah, something attached to the front of their truck in case they were to hit something. But I don't think we're moving fast enough on this trail really to cause any damage if we were to hit a deer. Hopefully not. Coming down into Mystic Canyon, Lost Maples State Park. Alright, coming up on the intersection of the West Loop and the trail that takes you to the primitive areas. G&H. We're here. I'm seeing what this campsite looks like here. If it's not to our liking, we're going to try to make this one. This is campsite H. So, what would you say we've come to this point here? That's about 2.5.
Miles.
About 2.5 miles, yeah.
Let's see, it's 0.22.
That's 1 mile to here. That's 2.5.
That's
Two
one
and
and a half.
so 2 3/4. Yeah. 2 3/4. All right, West Loop, 2.5 miles round trip, and I believe this is what takes you back toward the park headquarters to a lake. Yeah. We're feeling good. I think we'll continue on. Lost Maples State Natural Area. I think I've been calling this a state park. It's a natural area. So we brought a small 2-person tent, and I've brought my hammock. However, trees in this part of Texas suitable for hammock camping are few and far between. So there may be more options down here by the water for hammock camping. We are walking a dry creek bed, looking for a spring before we head back up on the next hilltop to find a camping spot. And we will get hydrated up and do the climb up there and set camp if we can find a good spot. Do you have any water divining ability?
No.
No?
I divined that there's a creek, so there's probably water somewhere.
Wow. That sounds just divine. Had to do a little backtracking and found this pool here. And if you're not looking, it's easy to miss. But it's definitely a spring. There is some flow straight out of the rocks. And after filtering it, I tasted it. It tastes fine. And we are climbing back up again on the West Loop Trail. Through a cedar thicket. And now that we're fully stocked with water, we just need to find a campsite and relax. Almost there. Decided to stop for a little electrolyte boost. Well, we made it to campsite H. I wonder if the H has any significance. I don't know. Huh? I don't know why they've got the fire pits up here if there's no fires allowed. Stealth fires. Well, we've arrived at campsite H. We have our shelters set up, nice and quiet. And we are contemplating dinner. And what's for dinner? chicken and rice.
Extra chicken.
Beautiful setting. Some oak trees and some cedar. Well, it's good morning from Camp H. We are enjoying the first cup of coffee for the day. Cheers.
Cheers.
And I don't know, I thought it was just a little bit warm last night.
It was warmer than I thought
A
it was.
little humid.
Very humid.
But we made it through the night. I don't see that anybody else has moved in here. Seems like we've got the whole place to ourselves. Peace and solitude in Lost Maple State Park. And for breakfast we have coffee. That's a nice assortment of granola bars and dried fruit. Looks like homemade oatmeal cookies and some almonds. So we'll sit here and enjoy the solitude, sip our coffee, and plan our departure. Friday morning, we're on the trail, going to see what the rest of the West Loop trail looks like. The sun has just now come out. We've got some blue sky, but it is very humid. Good thing is that it looks like the threat of rain isn't as bad as it was when we were breaking camp. So we decided to check out the rest of this trail and hoping maybe for a scenic overlook looking west. But I don't know, it's pretty thick up here. But still very scenic. Trail's in good shape. The rocks are a little slippery. I think there's been some condensation from the high humidity. This is the view coming down off of the West Loop Trail, and you can see some maples and fall color down there. You say it wasn't as dramatic a color change this year. Oh yeah. Yucca? Who decided to call it that? Maybe it was the first guy to try tasting it. This tastes like yuck. Ugh. Well, we've reached the bottom. Followed the creek for about 100 yards. And we have closed the loop. This is the trail going up to our campsite, campsite H. And if you take the whole loop, you come out right here. So we're going to hike a little further down and refill our water with the spring. continue on. Here is the overhang. This is primitive campsite G, and there's several nice spots. It's along a creek. And after you cross the creek heading west, I'll show you one of the spots. This one's fairly nice. You have some natural camp furniture here and a nice oak tree. Not bad at all. I'd say there's about 5 or 6 nice little campsites here. Coming out, you can see this is the creek. That's just on the east side of campsite G. Okay, so we're at the intersection of the West Loop and the West Trail. And instead of heading south from here and backtracking, we're going to continue to head east, and then we'll decide at primitive campsite C if we're going to take the East Trail or if we take the, what's the purple one there? It's called the East Trail, West Trail?
The connector.
It's the connector, which is a little shorter back to the headquarters. Alright. So this is where we came from, West Loop Trail. This is the new territory. Continuing on the west trail all along the creek, and the pools are getting progressively deeper. Yeah, a little bit of color. As you can see by the sign, we've entered campsite C, and there is a lot of room at this site, and it's very popular, I think, because of its location next to all of these ponds along the creek. In a little ways we'll reach a junction between the east-west connector trail and the east trail. And we'll decide at that point which way we'll go, largely based on the weather. Campsite Area C. Must be Texas. People swimming in November. This is looking back to the west, and a rather large pond at this site. A lot of activity. Very popular day hiking destination. All right, I've got my trail interpreter here, Cheryl. Start interpreting.
This is where we are. Here. That's where the east and west trails meet. And then this trail, which is a connector trail. Look straight back. This is the day hike trail right here. This is 3 miles around to get back to the parking lot here.
This is the east-west connector trail leaving the primitive campsite C area, and we have decided, because of the weather, to go ahead and save the east trail for another trip. Double cheeseburger time. Sitting in a regular chair eating, not on a piece of wood or a rock. We got some nice maples through here. This is the cutoff for the west trail. Looks like the last stream crossing, almost to the parking lot.
Made it.
We made it. Back at the parking lot, and I think I'm ready for a hot meal consisting of a cheeseburger.
Yep.
How about you?
Yep. Nice, juicy.